What about the non-chess things?
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't heard the interview with Magnus. I'm going to be honest. I haven't heard anything. So I'm not really sure what Magnus said or didn't say. You guys can sort of inform
He
me.
literally said "fuck you"
Yeah,
as
so
in
I
kind of
mean,
speaking to FIDE. He said, "If this is how they're gonna do, I'm like," and
He also
the
revealed he
soundbite is
spilled.
very good.
He also spilled the whole freestyle tea about players being threatened
threatened?
with
Well, I
not
mean,
being able to play the World Championship cycle.
one second. Let me adjust my microphone so it's a little bit better. Um, okay, so I mean, I think first things first. I already sort of alluded. I mean, I kind of alluded to it. I didn't say specifically what was going on, but I think if Magnus is going to just outright say that, then yeah. I mean, FIDE, of course, said things about the players, and basically, players were put in a situation where potentially you have to choose between playing the candidate cycle or playing in the freestyle World Championship, and so. That's the first thing. I did allude. I mean, I sort of alluded to it in my video. I know there are people out there who thought I'm just like making up stuff and saying things when, of course, obviously I know full well what's going on. I think ultimately my view of the whole situation is that there should be a world where players are able to play any events they want to without having to worry about retribution. That's the first thing I would say. Obviously, I haven't seen what Magnus said in that interview, but I would also say, that I think these things regarding dress code, the sooner that chess moves into the 21st century and we don't try to portray this fake image of these great geniuses who never say bad things, who like keep all their emotions aside, they're gentlemanly like it's the 1600s, the sooner we get past all this nonsense, the better off chess is going to be. I think it's an antiquated view that is really out of sorts and out of place. So, I think it's very important to keep that in mind. I think the notion of like fining people, it's really comical to me that FIDE tries to enforce this dress code because the reality for chess is that most of the players who are competing in this tournament outside of the top 10, they're paying an arm and a leg and a kidney to play in this tournament. There's expensive travel is very expensive. Hotels are very expensive. All this stuff is definitely it definitely adds up. And so it's kind of funny that FIDE is trying to say you have to wear all these dress clothes, go out, spend money, wear nice clothes, and sort of perpetrate this fake image when when basically you're struggling just to make a living and FIDE is not doing anything to support you. So I think that for me, that's one of the biggest problems with FIDE right now is that they live in this world where they think it's the 1970s still. Same thing goes with the event being here on Wall Street, where we're basically where you have the event on Wall Street. I mean, don't get me wrong. Obviously, New York is the financial center of the world. But the fact is, trading these days is electronic. You don't have endless traders on the floor doing the big trades or the consequential trades the way that you did, 25, 30 years ago. So I mean, all this stuff feels like very much like smoke and mirrors to me. It's like, trying to push an image that is just not in touch with the reality. I frankly think that as far as Magnus goes specifically, I don't think there's a single player at the playing venue who's going to not watch the event or online for that matter, who's not going to watch the event because Magnus is playing in jeans or his underwear, or I don't know, Speedo, like God knows like what the options are. But I don't think there's a single person in the world who cares about that at all. They want to see Magnus Carlsen play chess. He's the best player in the world, and that's that. That's what they want to see. To me, the whole thing is insane. Obviously, those of you guys who are watching the feeds, you probably saw me smile at Nepo before the second game. Like I saw him walk by, in my vision, and he started laughing. I was laughing. I mean, all of it is just like it's just completely insane. And so I think it's very disappointing. I did Magnus say that he's not playing the Blitz or not?
He
Yes, he
did say
did.
that, yeah.
He said he's
By the
not playing
way,
the Blitz.
he's not, and he was given a one game.
Yeah, but I mean, but this is
One
also,
game
I mean,
ban.
this speaks volumes about where FIDE is at, because if we go back to, I think it was 2017 or 2018, there was this situation with the FIDE World Cup in, I believe, Batumi, Georgia. And in that event, I believe it was Anton Kovalyev from Canada. He got disqualified because he was wearing shorts. Now, of course, once again, like I'm doing a little bit of story time here, but in that case, you had someone who is traveling from Canada, expected to lose very early, be there 2-3 days and go home. Someone who's not very rich or wealthy, someone who just shows up, expects to be there a few days, go home, and that's that. And then he ends up getting, I think, fined or forfeited or whatever. I think he actually just didn't show up because he was like, "What is this nonsense?" And so it's not like this is without precedence. This has happened before, and I think it's wild to think that it continues to happen.
But Hikaru, then, if it has happened before, why don't the players work together in order to make sure that the rules that are deemed silly are changed?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very very good question. I would say that in my opinion, the problem is that chess is a zero-sum game, and I think I sort of speak in terms of chess across the board, not just in terms of playing. But the problem with chess ultimately is that when you play the game, we're all on good terms with each other, but it is zero sum. Someone wins and someone loses. And I think that because everybody has that mindset and mentality, it's very, very difficult to sort of get the players to agree on things. Now, I would say that if you had the top 25 players in the world all agree on something like this, FIDE would be unable to hold this tournament because it would be a complete disaster. The sponsors wouldn't be interested. I mean, ultimately, they want to see the best players in the world competing. It's not about the clothes that they wear. And so for me, I mean, I think it's unfortunate this hasn't happened already, but considering what's going on now, I think we're in a world where there's a very good chance that the players are going to have to pick and choose tournaments between supporting FIDE or going their own way and playing the freestyle. And the only thing that I would say that really I find very disappointing about this whole thing is that I'll spill a little bit more tea here, which is that I had some conversations and I already felt that something was wrong with when I saw the statement that came out by Jan-Henrik Buettner, and then I saw what Arkady Dvorkovich tweeted. It was sort of very clear to me that FIDE was biding their time without making a clear decision, and I sort of told Henrik and Magnus this, that I thought that it was very, very questionable going along with this because I didn't trust FIDE whatsoever, and now, as we see, everything's kind of blowing up immediately. And I think that it's we have a brave new world coming, where I think that Magnus will try and do his own thing. I think there are other players who are also going to be in that same boat. As I said to Magnus about a week ago, I would reiterate this again, that at the end of the day, if push comes to shove, I will ultimately choose to play in the freestyle events and what it stands for, as opposed to trying to qualify for the candidates or play the World Championship. So the same thing that I said then holds true for me. But I think all in all,
when did you say this, Hikaru? Was this a private conversation?
I had a conversation with Magnus about a week ago, where I said this. I said it to him directly. Nothing in my stance has changed. I still stand behind what I said then. The push comes to shove, I think players are going to have a choice to make, and we'll see what they ultimately choose to do. But at the end of the day, it really is about the chess. People are here to watch the chess. They're not here for all this nonsense, or at least most people aren't. And I just think it's really a tragedy that we're dealing with this, because this could have very easily have been avoided if FIDE wasn't so insane, for lack of a better way of putting it.
Is it normal that you and Magnus talk together, or is that something that has?
That's relatively recent. I mean, as it relates specifically to this, I think, we're both at a point in our career where we're looking at the bigger picture of what we can do with the time that we have left, if I'm being frank, to try and push us in a direction that we think is good in the long term. And I think so. So for me, when I look at the whole thing, I think that Magnus views this as the future, maybe not freestyle necessarily, but I think the future of trying to have something which can be sustainable. Again, I will say this as well. What I would say about this is that is that the current model for FIDE is basically, you try to find a sponsor, someone who, for their own reasons, wants to be very philanthropic and support chess and not get anything in return. That is a model that we've seen in chess for probably the better part, I would say 50 years. You've had many individuals who have done great things trying to support the game, but ultimately, we always live in a world where as soon as someone passes on or loses interest in chess, everything dries up. A good example, of course, would be the Amber tournaments, which occurred in Monte Carlo for the better part of, I think, 20 years, the Rapid and Blindfold Melody Amber event. And as soon as I think the sponsor unfortunately had a stroke and he was unable to be directly involved, the event folded overnight. And we've lived in this world for so long now that that, you know, to me, we're in the new age where there is a lot of interest in chess. You have a lot of fans on the street who are interested, who want autographs and pictures and everything else. And I think there's a big appetite to watch it, especially on the internet versus, say, linear television. And so I think what Magnus thinks is that, you know, if you have a more engaged audience, you can sort of make the players look exciting. You have exciting games where you don't get 6-hour draws. There's potential to make chess bigger than it currently is. And whether or not that's the case down the road, who knows? But I think Magnus trying to do this is ultimately a good thing. I think it's a great thing that he's trying to do this.
Do you think that today, when we look back, that today will be really a big day that might change chess history in a way going forward?
I mean, I think there's a good chance. I think that it's very clear now that there's basically going to be a war. I think there's zero doubt in my mind that that Magnus is going to play the freestyle events. FIDE is going to basically change their words on some level, and they're going to say, look, you know, players have to pick and choose. You know, I could give. I mean, I could give even more tea, perhaps. I mean, you know, about, you know, financial stuff. I don't know. Magnus probably didn't say that. I'm guessing. Did he? The whole World Championship shakedown?
I don't think so.
He didn't go into that, so I'll leave that tea for another time. But you know, I think ultimately the reality is that you know, FIDE, they really they want to have their control, and I think for the people who are in charge, especially Emil Satovsky, he really enjoys that. He likes being able to, you know, say my way or the highway. You know, I could also go into my own issues as far as why I didn't have the cameras for this event. You know, and the whole disillusionment that I have with FIDE because of that and around everything in general. But you know, I think ultimately there's no doubt that this will be the beginning of a new era, because I do think that Magnus is definitely going to go his own way. I expect the players to have to pick or choose between FIDE or FIDE or the freestyle, and you know, we'll see what happens. But I think it's very clear now that you know, we're going to end up in a situation where Magnus will do his own thing. I don't think he's going to play FIDE events, and you know, I would say from my standpoint, I think that Magnus trying to do this is going to be a good thing. If anything, I think that it'll probably cause FIDE to look introspectively and perhaps try to reform or change. But I don't think that anything is going to happen before the end of this tournament. Although who knows? Maybe FIDE will say something before the Blitz, and you know, me or other players will be put in a tough situation. I mean, it's really unclear what the future holds.